On June 14th, President Donald Trump stood before the world to announce what he called the completion of a historic deal with Iran. He immediately ordered the reopening of the Strait of Hormuz and issued his now famous message, "Ships of the world, start your engines. Let the oil flow." Less than 2 weeks later, on June 27th, American warplanes were bombing Iranian targets in the Gulf. Iran was once again threatening to close the Strait of Hormuz, and negotiations in Switzerland had collapsed after only 80 minutes. On that same day, Trump was reportedly shouting at Benjamin Netanyahu, saying he had no judgment after an Israeli airstrike on Beirut nearly destroyed any remaining hopes for diplomacy. Meanwhile, as negotiations swung wildly between bombs and diplomacy, Tehran witnessed a completely different scene. Millions of Iranians poured into the streets of the capital for a massive funeral procession. Red flags filled the sky. Crowds chanted, "Death to America," and Iran staged one of the largest demonstrations of national unity seen in years. This is the story of 10 extraordinary days that combined war and diplomacy, funerals and celebrations, anger and fragile ceasefires, and how Trump, who rushed to sign an agreement to end the war, found himself only days later staring at the possibility of returning to square one. Come with me as we tell the story of the 10 days that shook the Middle East. Trump declares victory. On June 14th, President Donald Trump appeared to be celebrating. Standing before television cameras, he announced what he described as the completion of a historic agreement with Iran. On Truth Social, he wrote, "The agreement with the Islamic Republic of Iran is now complete. Congratulations to everyone." He immediately ordered the reopening of the Strait of Hormuz and posted the message that would become one of the defining quotes of the week. "Ships of the world, start your engines. Let the oil flow." The 14-point Memorandum of Understanding officially entered into force on June 18th after being electronically signed by Presidents Trump and Masoud Pezeshkian. The next step was supposed to be technical negotiations in Switzerland. Those talks would activate Article 13 of the memorandum, covering negotiations toward a final agreement, including ending military operations across all fronts, including Lebanon, lifting the naval blockade, reopening the Strait of Hormuz, and releasing frozen Iranian assets. But from the very beginning, there was a problem. According to CNN, American officials privately described the memorandum as extremely vague and said it failed to reflect confidential commitments allegedly made by Iran. Sources also suggested that portions of the document had intentionally been left ambiguous to allow Tehran greater flexibility in presenting the agreement domestically. Without a clear text, each side interpreted the memorandum differently. That ambiguity would soon prove fatal. The negotiations collapse. On June 21st, delegates from the United States and Iran met at the luxury Bergenstock Resort in Switzerland for their first direct negotiations since the memorandum had been announced. Only 80 minutes later, everything fell apart. Iranian delegation leader Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf stood up from his chair. He looked directly at Vice President J.D. Vance and said, "We do not negotiate under threats." Then he collected his papers, turned around, and walked out of the room. What caused the collapse? Earlier that very morning, President Trump had posted another warning on Truth Social. Iran must immediately stop its proxies in Lebanon from causing trouble. If they don't, we will strike Iran again, only harder. Iranian officials argued that the statement violated the spirit of the memorandum. According to Iranian sources, their delegation also demanded faster access to frozen assets and export licenses for Iranian oil, while protesting what they described as American violations of previous commitments. Washington attempted to arrange another meeting with mediators. Tehran refused. Negotiations originally intended to continue for 60 days had ended after just 80 minutes. Trump's fury at Netanyahu. On June 27th, while Trump was preparing to promote what he viewed as a historic diplomatic achievement, Israeli aircraft launched an airstrike against Beirut's southern suburbs. The strike targeted a 5-story residential building, causing casualties and threatening to ignite another regional crisis. Trump reportedly reacted with unusual anger. In comments later reported by multiple outlets, he allegedly said of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, "Bibi has no fucking judgment." Speaking to Israeli media, Trump reportedly complained Hezbollah fired rockets into the middle of nowhere. Then they launched that damn attack in Beirut. That made me very angry. He then issued a broader appeal. "We are very close to an agreement that could bring peace to the region, including Lebanon. Everyone must stop. There should be no more attacks by Israel anywhere in Lebanon, but there should also be no attacks by anyone else including Hezbollah. This could be the beginning of a long and beautiful peace. Let's not waste it. Trump appeared determined to convince Netanyahu that the emerging agreement with Iran required a broader ceasefire in Lebanon as well, bombing and negotiating at the same time. Even after negotiations collapsed, military escalation continued. The region entered another cycle of attacks and diplomacy unfolding simultaneously. Sunday, the Iranian attack. On June 25th, a Panama-flagged oil tanker was struck by an Iranian drone in the Strait of Hormuz. Iran's Revolutionary Guard claimed responsibility, describing the operation as retaliation for Israeli actions in Lebanon. Monday, the American response. Within 12 hours, U.S. Central Command launched a new series of airstrikes against Revolutionary Guard positions in Hormozgan and Bushehr provinces. Targets included radar installations, missile launchers, and command and control facilities. Tuesday, Trump's announcement. The following day, Trump declared that Iran had requested a return to negotiations. We hit them hard, and now they want to talk. That's what always happens when you show strength. Within only a few days, the Middle East had become trapped in a cycle where bombing campaigns and diplomatic negotiations were happening simultaneously. Analysts described it as walking the edge of the cliff. Both sides continued using military force to strengthen their negotiating positions, while racing back into diplomatic meeting rooms. Tehran's massive funeral. Amid all this, Tehran presented a completely different picture. In late June and early July, what state media described as millions of people gathered across the Iranian capital to participate in the funeral of a senior military commander. The funeral became one of the largest demonstrations of national unity seen in years. Red flags filled the sky. Crowds shouted, "Death to America." Military and political leaders who had remained largely absent since the outbreak of the conflict suddenly reappeared together. Quds Force Commander Esmail Qani, new Revolutionary Guard Commander Ahmad Vahidi, former President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad, all standing side by side. Analysts believe the Iranian government urgently needed to demonstrate that its authority remained intact despite months of military strikes, economic hardship, soaring inflation, and repeated disruptions in the Strait of Hormuz. The message was unmistakable. We are here, and we are not leaving. Write your opinion in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to receive all our new videos. See you in the next video.